We're really bad at this. Welcome back to the James and Dame Show. I'm Josiah.
And I'm Will.
That's never going to get old.
Never.
And this is week 2 recap, looking at these games that happened. A lot has happened.
Damn it.
Is that a good thing, though?
Well,
Because, like,
depends on who you are.
I guess, but also, like, there's no consistency anymore. So it's like, who's good and who's not?
Yeah.
We'll figure it out. It's only week 2.
All right. Yeah. I guess we just start going through games. I guess we could start off with, obviously, standings with Pick'ems, which is, somehow miraculously, I have come back to tie you for first at 16-16 because I went
first.
I went 8-8 again.
I went 6-10.
It was a rough week.
It was a very rough week because we thought all these things were happening and it didn't happen. To begin with, for some reason, I don't know why I chose Miami. I should have known better. Bills and Dolphins. James Cook cooked.
Yeah.
No, literally, he cooked me in fantasy.
No, I had him in fantasy, so that was really nice.
This year in fantasy is going to suck for me. Like, I don't think I'm going to get anywhere with my 2 leagues. The point still being,
Buffalo.
is this supposed to be the Bills off year or something? Because, like, they don't look very off.
I don't know. Like, who was it? Their corner had a really good day.
Bills corner?
Yeah, what's his name?
Poyer?
Not
No.
Poyer actually was on the Dolphins. He's a safety for the Dolphins now.
Yeah, Poyer's over there.
Uh,
Are you thinking Tre'Davious White?
Benford?
Benford?
Benford had a good day. He was good in coverage and he had a pick.
That's right, yeah.
But yeah, it was a very dominant day for the Bills.
You'll forget their name or something?
No, I was just thinking. Yeah, Bills very dominant day. On the ground, in the air, especially on defense. Dolphins kept up with them early being like part of the first quarter, and then they just turnovers were an issue. It's kind of just a mess, but obviously the biggest takeaway from that game being the Tua injury, which is
Against Damar Hamlin, of all people.
yeah.
That's kind of not ironic in a good way. It's more of like I guess fate was destined to collide with those two. We talked about it a little bit when we were live. Tua should at least consider the idea of retiring because of how many concussions he's had and how quickly and severe they get the more you get them. It wasn't as bad as like the finger lock thing, but it was bad enough where he shouldn't have had a concussion from a chest hit or side hit or whatever it was, because it wasn't to the head, was it?
It was he led with his head, but
he led with his head. Okay.
I'm still not certain whether it was the contact he made with Damar Hamlin or if it was when he hit the ground. Neither were like super significant. It wasn't like super significant contact.
Yeah.
But it was apparently enough to give him another concussion. And I don't know if you're Tua, you kind of look at. I think he should consider it. It doesn't look like he's going to this year. It doesn't even look like he's going to be placed on IR. So
No, it kind of sucks though, because Tua, as much as people like to like crap on him and everything, he's not terrible. Like, I think he's a decent quarterback. It's just with how many injuries he's gathered over his career as a football player is kind of concerning, and it's something that he needs to look into specifically, because I don't want another like Antonio Brown, where like with all that concussions and injuries will end up making them go crazy kind of thing. I don't know if that's how Antonio Brown got crazy.
No,
Maybe
I think part of it was
crazy.
just him as well. But I mean, looking at it, also very poor taste. Very poor taste was Amazon Prime, whatever, showing a montage of all of Tua's concussions while he's been in the NFL, which was not it was in very poor taste.
Yes, it was. I think as a media platform, you shouldn't be showing that kind of stuff, or at least during a live performance game or something like that. That's something you probably do in like a recap or whatever, but
it's I mean, again,
it's a little interesting.
They talk about it and they want to like it, they want to broadcast it clearly, but to the extent they did was excessive. And they've done this before, like 2 years ago with Damar Hamlin.
Yeah, Damar Hamlin was
they've gone a little overboard with like showing injuries, and not that like I'm someone who like I want to see an injury, not like I don't want to see an injury. I want to like if it happens, I want to see the replay. I want to see what happened, but
yeah, and see how long they'll be out, that kind of stuff. Like you want to know how they're going to recover and everything. Like you don't want to, like obviously you never wish an injury on a person. That's inhumane, basically. Like you don't wish somebody to get hurt.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Them just showing a compilation of that was just seemed out of poor taste. But to wrap up that segment, the only other piece of information that I saw was that it looks like the Dolphins are signing Tyler Huntley off of the Ravens practice squad. But again, still not putting Tua on IR. Probably just going to see him miss a week or two. I think Tyler Huntley is going to be a better option going forward than Skylar Thompson.
Yes. But yeah.
Yeah. Rough game.
Rough game
for the Dolphins.
But
streak continues for the Bills.
Yep. Speaking of rough games in a different sense, hey Cowboys. All that talk you were talking when you were beating the Cleveland Browns, it really fired back on y'all, didn't it? You got Derek Carr hitting the hee-hee on y'all. Kamara put up 4 touchdowns?
Kamara had 4 touchdowns.
4 touchdowns. Derek Carr had, I don't remember how many, but he had a few.
He had 2 touchdowns plus a rushing, so he had 3.
You couldn't force those guys to punt until the 4th quarter when they were up 41 to, I think it was 13 at some point. I don't remember. Basically, what are you doing? On the good side of things for the Saints, this is the reason why I apologized to the Saints. Like, I was not familiar with your game. I don't know if it's just the Dallas Cowboys collapsing on defense or it's just Kamara and Carr suddenly woke up, reverted back to their prime years, and just decided to be good again. What's your take on this?
My take is that I can't remember his name.
That happens a lot.
Clint Kubiak is apparently a god.
Yeah,
and
he really is.
Probably that's the Saints OC, who's the guy who came in this year, who has fixed every woe that at least through 2 weeks, every woe that the Saints had been experiencing all year last year. So maybe it was getting rid of Pete Carmichael. Maybe Clint Kubiak is just that good.
He might just be that good. Maybe it's just chemistry. It might just be chemistry with the OC and his players.
It could be, but we're already seeing teams hoping for him to be head coach of their team next year.
After 2 weeks, it's crazy.
Yeah. So
I don't know. It's a little too soon to say that, but I'm gonna say good job, Saints. You've proven a lot of us wrong. Honestly, both of us, because we thought you were gonna be mediocre again this year.
well, that's because they did it for so long.
We
And they
just
didn't
assumed that it was gonna happen again.
only other than I mean they did get an offensive line piece which they desperately needed.
Oh my
but,
gosh, that O line was interesting.
So yeah,
Good job.
I mean, Saints just stomped on the Cowboys, which was very entertaining.
So, what was I gonna say? Trevon Diggs still being burnt all the time. At least at least the clips that I saw. That was a game I didn't get to watch, but I just kept checking the score. I'm just like, man, the Saints are really good this year. Apparently,
Yeah.
the Cowboys are not that good this year.
The Cowboys are probably still going to end up being
the
same as they are in the regular season.
Did somebody switch the calendars to January because that's how they played? But yeah, I mean, we can move on to Tampa Bay visiting Detroit. Revenge game for Tampa Bay.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Baker Mayfield looks even better than he has been. Like he's slowly been getting better as a quarterback. The Lions, an interesting stat was that the Lions were 1-7 in the red zone during that game. That's very rare. And the fact that Tampa Bay was able to keep that team to 16 points is very impressive. So the Buccaneers are making a statement very early on, at least in the NFC. Honestly, NFC South might be very entertaining outside of the Carolina Panthers, because you have the Saints and Buccaneers being 2-0, very promising seasons to start out with. Falcons a little bit of a rocky start, but we'll get to that. And then there's the Panthers. But yeah, I mean, nothing much from me from that game. I mean, great job, Buccaneers. Lions, that was a hard-fought game. I mean, sucks that you couldn't convert anything in the red zone, but hey, I mean, if the Buccaneers end up being really good this year, at least you can say you kept it close.
That's true. My concern with the Lions, which was just weird, they over doubled Tampa Bay's yards.
Yeah,
They almost doubled them in plays. Goff was 34 for 55, 307 yards, but 2 picks.
Yep.
And they ended up with, 139 yards on the ground.
Yeah.
It's turnovers. They failed 2 fourth downs. They failed 10 times on third down. But even looking at Tampa Bay didn't do great on offense. They were 2 for 10 on third downs.
Mm-hmm. There's just a lot of luck.
I think the Lions just made a lot of mistakes. Those 2 turnovers came at crucial points. He just was just a sloppy game from the Lions.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess the Buccaneers just played more solid, more consistent.
They made less mistakes.
Yeah,
that's what it was.
Because they did not have the yardage or anything really. I mean, Chris Godwin did well.
Yeah, Godwin did amazing that game. Good for him.
He's about the only one who did.
Yeah, everyone else was a little sloppy, but Godwin had a day.
So they kind of just relied on the Buccaneers just relied on the Lions to make their mistakes, which is always fun, always great
fun.
Way to win.
Yeah. Moving to Green Bay, Colts visiting the Packers. It's a very close game. Malik Willis. I saw his interview. He was very humble about it. He said that there was a lot to improve. That it wasn't he wasn't the one to lead the charge, but he's proud of his team and everything. So, I mean, it was a good game, at least for the Packers side of things. Colts, a little concerning, specifically on that run defense. You let up 261 yards. That's not good, especially against the Packers unit. Obviously, you just got AR back and still trying to ease him into everything, but you got to work on that run defense. I know that's a defensive thing, but on offense specifically, Richardson wasn't doing too hot, if I recall correctly. He was not throwing very well.
He had 3 interceptions, 2 fumbles, plus a Jonathan Taylor fumble as well.
Yeah.
I think they got both of Anthony Richardson's back. I think they lost Jonathan Taylor's, though. Maybe? I think so. But, yeah, looking at Anthony Richardson, first thought, he does better when he completes less than 10 passes.
Apparently.
I mean,
It's a Texans team too. I don't know what was going on.
the rushing game was better than it was last week. You just, again, a lot of mistakes from Anthony Richardson on those interceptions. Xavier McKinney looks really good for the Packers.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And then obviously Packers just, again, doing what they need to do while Jordan Love is out, which is just kind of lean on that run game.
Yep.
And 53 carries for 261 yards. A lot. Malik Willis had limited throws.
But he did okay.
He
did okay.
12 for 14, 122 yards and a touchdown. Like, he had a good he wasn't asked to do much, but
He did what he needed to do.
he did more than good enough. Obviously, I'm assuming you saw the thing that's been floating around as to why the Packers, and specifically Malik Willis, did not throw the ball on third down, on a specific third down. I don't remember
Heard
which one.
something about that.
And it was because their center threw up on the ball before he snapped it.
That's nasty.
It was nasty.
That is so nasty.
And
I'm glad I didn't see that before this.
so that happened.
Yeah.
But Packers back to even at 1-1, and your season actually looks pretty all right. Again, against the Colts, who knows how good they're going to be or how many wins they're actually going to get.
Colts will be competitive. That's for sure.
Yep, they have been competitive, even though it was like not really until the end of the game. But moving on to the Jets and Titans.
So, can we conclude Rodgers is somewhat back to form? I mean, because this was another game I didn't get to see. Rodgers, if I recall from his stats, he didn't do too much. Like, he didn't carry the team on his back, quote unquote. But I don't know. Titans made more mistakes, that's for sure. Levis was being funny again with what was it? Instead of the oh no, and this week it was like a jump out of the way or whatever it was. I don't know. I saw a picture of him just flying in the air. I don't know what happened.
He had a play where he was trying to scramble and dump off the ball, but he ran left, tripped, and fumbled the ball.
Oh, that's what it was then.
So, yeah, a rough day from Levis with 2 more turnovers, 2 costly turnovers because one was in the red zone.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, to go off of Aaron Rodgers' stats, didn't do a whole lot. 176 yards, 2 touchdowns. I mean, he did what he needed to do. I mean, it was the Titans. It wasn't anything crazy.
He had an iffy completion percentage, but again, from what we saw last week with the Titans, and now we've seen it this week, is the Titans seem to have a decently improved defense, and their issues have come from the offensive side. Calvin Ridley actually did well with 2 touchdowns. There are only 2 touchdowns, 4 receptions, 77 yards. He was a pretty big contributor.
Mm-hmm.
130 yards on the ground for the team was solid, but passing didn't get much going. So
It's a bad day
yeah,
for Titans, but
you're seeing some offensive woes, which is a lot of it seems to be coming back to Will Levis, but we'll see how much of that. The concerning thing is your new your new head coach is an offensive-minded head coach, so your defense coming in and playing well is not really what you would expect. But
yeah, but here we are. Well,
yeah,
I guess positive to a negative. I guess I don't know.
Yeah, Titans are struggling. Their defense looks good, or at least pretty good.
Yeah. We didn't really think the Jets were going to do much this year.
Braylon Allen had a touchdown.
Mm-hmm.
Who is a man that I'm concerned about going forward because he haunted me at Wisconsin.
Oof.
But yeah, I mean, it was a tight game for most of it. Titans just choked it away at the end again.
Yep. And then to go even further north, the Vikings hosting the Niners. I didn't know about this. San Francisco has not beat Minnesota in Minnesota since, 1997, I believe it was the year. Or it was in the 90s.
It's been a while.
So it's been a few decades. Also, Sam Darnold revenge tour, something like that. I don't know.
Kind of. He was a backup, so.
Yeah, I don't know. He's not amazing, but he's doing pretty well. I don't know if you saw the stats when Darnold and Mayfield were at Carolina. They were like, what was it, 17 touchdowns and like 12 interceptions or whatever. And then combined now, they're like 46 touchdowns and like 14 picks. So like they're doing really well outside of Carolina. So
yeah, I think Carolina definitely was a large part of that issue, which is we'll get to them in a minute. But looking at the Vikings 49ers game, a lot of people were surprised that the 49ers dropped this game. I'm not necessarily surprised, only for like the reasons of.
Didn't you predict?
I did not. I still went with 49ers, but I'm not surprised that the Vikings won. Justin Jefferson had 133 yards.
Like the only good player on my fantasy team.
Yeah. So, I mean, he's good. I wasn't expecting Ty Chandler to be your leading rusher.
Yeah,
but
which is very surprising.
Aaron Jones with a pretty bad fumble.
Yeah, he had a little sloppy earlier.
I fumbled it the one, but I think he fumbled it like at the one. But the offense is swinging, and again, you have a system, you have the pieces around Sam Darnold for him to kind of perform
better than what he has been. Yeah,
I mean, it's a similar situation to Baker
and
what he had last year. And I think both of those quarterbacks are quarterbacks who kind of just needed the right system and a little bit of coaching, and then they could prove it themselves.
I agree.
And so he's kind of actually doing that. Obviously, having a pick was not optimal, but
yes.
Other than that, like 17 for 26, 268 yards. He had a pretty good day. You got just a balanced game on offense, so 49ers defense wasn't as dominant as it was week one. 49ers also had a good amount of yards, but, Brock Purdy threw an interception. He also had a kind of weird fumble, but it was just
something.
An issue, I guess, with converting has been.
This is a converting issue, I think.
Which is what we've seen out of a lot of teams. 2 for 10 on third and 1 for 3 on fourth. Just not being able to convert when you need to convert. And then you look at Red zone, they were 2 for 4. So
Oh yeah.
it's, red zone
happens.
defense. I think the Vikings defense is much improved as well this year. Having allowed an average of 10 points,
Yeah. Somewhere around there.
averaging 10 points a game. So they're doing pretty solid. But we can move on to the next game.
Going to East Coast. Seattle visiting the Patriots. Very close game. Metcalf had a day. I also went up against him in fantasy.
Not fun.
So I know that he did really well. I don't remember his stat line, but he had a couple touchdowns, I believe, a bunch of yards, bunch of receptions. Seattle was able to squeak out a win in overtime. Patriots are not looking too bad, especially with that roster. Like we said last week, it was like, oh, it's just a week 1 thing, or it's just the Bengals being the Bengals in the first 4 weeks. Patriots are not looking too bad right now. Like, they're not a great team, but they don't look terrible.
They're not. The way I look at the Patriots right now is they're not a overly talented roster.
Yes.
But what you do see is, I mean, Jacoby Brissett only 15 for 27, 149 yards and a touchdown.
Yeah.
What you see is Gerard Mayo relying on the pieces he knows he can, which is the run game and the defense and keeping the games close.
Yes.
I think he's done a really good job again with the roster he has, because again, especially that offense is not anything super impressive. I think their defense again is kind of sneaky good, but it's because it's the Patriots. I think Mayo probably picked up a decent amount from Belichick, so I think that's kind of why that hasn't, missed a step.
Mm-hmm.
But I think if you're the Patriots,
I guess be happy with what you have right now. It's not looking too bad.
yeah, I mean,
I hate saying that, but
looking at potentially a okay season with potentially your coach of the future.
yeah, he looks pretty promising. Unless something really bad happens, I don't think anything.
I don't think
anything should regress. In fact, anything it should be going up from now.
Yeah, they look good. Meanwhile, the Seahawks are like, I don't know. I feel like they should have done better. I think this is the second week in a row that they're 2-0, but they have not looked great at 2-0.
That run game is struggling a bit. And I know they're missing Kenneth Walker and everything, but it's not looking too hot. That's like the only concern I think I have for the Seahawks is that run game. But maybe consistency, maybe that'd be else. But
yeah, but Seahawks squeak out a 23-20 win over the Patriots. And then moving on to the Giants and Commanders.
Commanders won by just field goals.
Only field goals, 7 of them.
The only person who really contributed on the Giants side was Neighbors. Neighbors was doing really well. I don't know how, but the Washington Commanders somehow still beat the Giants, even though the Giants actually did something okay on offense, considering they have Neighbors.
I mean, Neighbors was the only one who really did. He had 127 of Daniel Jones's 178 yards.
Yeah.
So all but 51 of them. So I think Neighbors was the only part of that offense that really did anything. I mean, Singletary almost 100 yards. Looking at the Commanders, it really should not have been as close as it was. Daniels, no interceptions, 23 for 29, 226 yards.
Not terrible, but still.
Far better than what Daniel Jones did, although Daniel Jones did get 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, they were on the backs of Neighbors.
Neighbors and Robinson. But again, Jaden Daniels didn't make as many mistakes. They had 215 yards on the ground. Mm-hmm. They moved the ball a lot better. I think what made this so close is the fact that the Commanders couldn't get into the end zone.
Yes.
But I think what this shows is the Giants' defense doesn't look great right now, which is the thing you were kind of hoping to lean on
Yeah.
this year, because the offense is not the thing to lean on this year. So your defense allowing teams to drive up and down the field, specifically 7 times, and even though you keep them out of the end zone, it's not enough to win a game because your offense can't put up more than 20.
You gotta use all sides of the team. You can't just use one, because just because defense is showing out doesn't mean that the offense can just slack. I don't know. The Giants have been very bad, so I'm just not surprised.
Kept this one close though.
Yeah, I kept it close. What I am surprised, I don't know. Chargers look solid. Panthers are just terrible. The only thing I can take away from this game is that Bryce Young got benched. After the game.
He'll be benched going
this game
forward, which is interesting because I've seen a lot of praise from the players on the Panthers and also from Canales, so a lot of people are looking at the benching as Bryce Young is bad and they don't want to play Bryce Young anymore, which could be the case. But having seen that right before seeing the news, I thought maybe because who they're putting in is Andy Dalton.
Yeah.
And so that kind of seems like maybe they're trying to just give him time to develop, which is what you should do with quarterbacks.
Yep.
Anyways,
Tom Brady put it very well. Do not start rookie quarterbacks right away. Like, you got to give them time to develop. The very rare exceptions that they do work is like C.J. Stroud. Like, I don't know any other rookie QB that ends up being like a generational talent like immediately right out the gate. Like, it's very rare that you find those.
Not in recent
memory, but
maybe 20 years ago at Peyton Manning. But looking at this game again, Bryce Young was not good. I think it might be, again, they're looking to bench him literally just to give him time to develop instead of just throwing him out into the fire, because that's not done well.
No. He was like, what, 2 for 16? Or no? What's his record? Like 2 for 18 now?
2 and 8.
2 and 18, his record as a Panther, because they went 2 and...
They would have been 2 and 15, so he'd be 2 and 17 right now.
2 and 17, okay.
But yeah, I mean, he only had 84 passing yards, so it was a rough day. But looking at the flip side to the Chargers, kind of more of what you saw last week. Not a lot of passing out of Justin Herbert. J.K. Dobbins had another really good day. He was a sneaky pickup in fantasy. I got him. That was nice. And then I think the biggest surprise, Quentin Johnston making 2 touchdown grabs.
He can catch the ball.
Yeah, he actually did
No way.
something. So, props to the Chargers. Their offense looks consistent, and your defense is pretty good.
Yeah.
Your defense looks pretty good. Kind of locking up your teams. I mean, you played the Panthers and the Raiders, but I might give you some promise going forward. But there's not much else to talk about.
This next game was a show.
This was
Browns visiting Jaguars. Is it panic time in Duval? Probably. Thomas Jr. looked good. That's like the only good thing from that side. On the Browns side, they won somehow with Watson.
The thing that was interesting about this game was what we saw from Deshaun Watson in the first half last week. We saw in the second half this week.
Yeah.
Where he did basically nothing all game. But the Jaguars have been really bad on offense.
Mm-hmm. I don't know what's going on down there.
So defense was fine. They only allowed 18 points. Again, two coming off of a safety.
Yes, coming off of safety.
They need to figure out their offense, whether that's a new offensive coordinator or, like we've mentioned before, just getting rid of Doug Peterson. You're obviously not going to move on from Trevor right now
No, not right now.
because you
just
paid him.
You gotta use him.
But I don't think this comes down to necessarily a Trevor issue. I think this is
it's a scheming issue.
it's just, I don't know. You got to figure that out. But Browns win by not looking much better than they did last week. The Jaguars are just looking worse.
Yeah.
So, moving on.
Ravens.
Yep. No, this one was fun.
How about them Ravens? I think it was, so Minshew went 30 for 38, 276 yards, and was sacked 5 times. However, Minshew, he did really well. Brock Bowers looked really good, is from what I'm hearing from that game. And then on the Ravens side, I guess blew another lead. A lot of people are saying that Lamar Jackson's being carried by that defense right now. So I don't know why people are saying that. I mean, I can see where they're coming from, but I don't think it's just an offensive issue. I think it's just not being able to close out games on both sides of the ball.
13 points in the fourth when you were up 10 going into it. That goes on both sides. They've not utilized their weapons great. Mark Andrews had a slightly better game. Derrick Henry had a slightly better game, but it's still not really where we're hoping to be yet. And I still think there's a lot of kind of meshing they need to do, figuring stuff out. The offense does not look like it was when it was in full swing last year. I've heard a lot of that being attributed to the O-line. But I think there's also some things with Lamar. I think he's just passing has been worse this year than he has last year.
Yes. He's not looking as confident. I don't know what it is. He doesn't look very confident in some of his plays, because the Raiders were able to pick that apart real fast. So, I mean, I don't know. That's all I got from that game. It's just that Minshew did better than Lamar towards the end of the game. That's about it.
Making fewer mistakes, I guess. Max Crosby is still Max Crosby, so that's never fun. And they have Christian Wilkins, so they just have a really good pass rush.
Yeah.
So even though Jackson was only sacked twice compared to Minshew's 5, it still attributes to wrecking a game when you have those two. And I don't think the defense for Baltimore is carrying as much as people say. I think they've taken a step back from where they were last year,
especially with McDonald being gone. So
a large part of that. And again, I think you still have a really solid roster. So it's just kind of working with maybe a not as elite defense and figuring out stuff on offense, because
catering more to the offense now than you are the defense.
Yeah, just relying a little bit more.
Relying more on the offense than you are the defense.
Yeah, which we have the pieces to. It's
a little rough right now.
Need to get back into the swing of things. But like, it's not panic time, but it's like
a little concerning.
We're trying to just figure out what we're doing.
Yeah.
But
who I'm not concerned about right now is the Arizona Cardinals.
Marvin Harrison did something. He did a lot of things.
Murray said, I just didn't see him. I'm going to give him the ball when I can. His first 2 catches were touchdowns, if I recall correctly. Harrison Jr., he's looking to become that guy again. Not again. Well, yeah, I guess. From Ohio State to Arizona. Los Angeles, I wouldn't say panic time. I think it's more, I don't know. you're dealing with injuries right now, specifically Cup and Puka Nakua being out now, or Cup being out now, Puka being out from last week. And you're also missing Aaron Donald a lot, especially on that defense. There's not much you can do. This might end up being like a down year if this is going to continue to be the trend, especially with all these injuries. All I'm going to say is that when you get healthy, maybe you'll start being, up to par with everybody again. But for now, you're just kind of stuck in the muck, and you're not looking very very happy when you look at the next week because you go somewhere else.
Yeah, Rams are kind of I don't think the Rams are a bad team, but
They're just injured.
It's been a thing over the past couple of years where they have elite weapons in the passing game, but that's also where they've experienced injuries. We've seen Cooper Kupp injured a few times. We've seen Matthew Stafford injured a few times.
Mm-hmm.
They don't rely on their run game. So when they get to points where the passing game doesn't do outstanding, they kind of take a step back. Defense is still young. Again, they're still a really young roster. How far they'll go this year, I don't know. But Cardinals, again, showing that maybe they have taken a much further step forward this year than people were thinking. Again, Kyler looked good, which I'm very happy about. I'm very glad to see him do
for
well.
A while.
Yeah, I think he's actually getting back to form for once. And then again, Harrison having the game that I think he probably wanted in his debut.
Yes.
Good day out of the Cardinals.
Mm-hmm. Going to Mile High now. I don't know how they do it, but the Steelers still win, like with almost no offense.
They don't.
That's whatever.
They don't need to. I mean, that's kind of what that defense does, is kind of just force the offenses into a bad spot and allowing their own offense to do minimal stuff. I mean, you don't need they had 251 yards, but I mean, you don't need a lot. And I mean, looking at Justin Fields, again, he didn't do anything super impressive, but he doesn't need to.
He was a manager.
Yeah, which is, I mean, currently
that's all you need apparently from that team. Also, as much as I dislike the Steelers and their community, I cannot refute the fact that T.J. Watt is a beast. He somehow sacked Bo Nix without even touching him. Bo Nix felt his presence and was like, and just kind of fell down. Looking at Bo Nix, and he's a rookie. You're not going to expect him to be great. A lot right now, he looks more like a check down machine than anything else. But give him some time; he'll probably develop to an okay quarterback, maybe.
I think the key is with Denver right now. I don't think you can look at Bo Nix, another 2 picks, but I think the main issue is he doesn't have a good support system around him. He once again was a leading rusher with 25 yards.
That's concerning. All right. Well, we know what's the problem there.
And their leading receiver was Josh Reynolds.
Oh.
So they're just
never mind.
He does not have a lot going for him as far as help goes on the offense. And he's just, I'm not saying that he's an amazing quarterback, but because he has nothing, he's playing poorly. No, he still has room to he still has a lot to prove.
Yes.
He just is not getting help, which he has
no help around him. Yes.
So which rookies need. But again, looking at the Steelers, putting Justin Fields in a situation to kind of just go out there and not ruin a game, which he hasn't done, and putting him in a good situation to get the wins that they need. So they go up to 2-0. Annoyingly.
Yeah. And then quite the opposite for this team. Bengals visiting the Chiefs. Um, think looking at injuries right now for the Chiefs, Brown is out now, and Pacheco is on IR and will be missing 4 games, or at least around that
I
amount
think
of
I
games.
saw 6 to 8.
6
for him.
to 8 now. Okay.
So they're looking to pick someone up. But
Yeah, Chiefs are getting a little injured right now. Bengals. I don't know why you forced me to do this. I think that was the right call. Towards the end of the game,
with the pass
with
interference,
the pass interference, that was the right call.
I've
They
seen
can't keep getting away with this. Is my point.
I've seen so many people complain about refs on that.
Okay, don't get me wrong. The refs have been pretty terrible, and it's been a glaring issue for the past 2 years. However, was a stupid decision by that Bengals cornerback, because why would you do that? All you had to do was just make sure that Rice didn't get the ball without being up all over him, and then you won the game.
Yeah, I mean it was almost like it was just throwing the ball up. You didn't if he plays it right, you don't really worry about it. But he gets there too early, which is a penalty.
I
And
feel like they keep losing brain cells whenever it's like the last few minutes when they play the Chiefs. Like it's not just the Bengals too. It's like every team that plays the Chiefs, like they like lose brain cells like the last couple minutes. I'm like, bro, just
it's something in
stop
the
fueling the fire.
It's something in the
You're making this
water.
worse for the rest of us. Don't be stupid.
Yeah, I'm not really sure. The Bengals had him on the ropes. Played pretty well.
I don't
But
know if
just-
Bengals are back to form quite yet.
Well,
They're
it's-
looking better.
They looked better, but it's also hard to tell because they're going against the only team that is, or they're the only team who's ever credited to really be able to beat the Chiefs, which is
Yeah, I don't know about that one.
I don't know,
Eh.
annoying, but
It is annoying.
as a Ravens fan,
However,
at least. Moving on
going
to
Sunday Night Football. That was a night. It wasn't that good of a night for Williams though. He's still a little raw. Just a little. Texans got me worried there for a little bit towards the end. I don't know what the defense was doing, but you still made your plays and everything. It was a little concerning here and there, but I think it was just not being able to close out drives, especially on a couple of those towards the end. But other than that, they did what they needed to do to win. Williams was just not in the right space to make his plays, and he's just not comfortable quite yet. His line is terrible. He is practically dying every time he snaps that ball after this ball gets snapped towards him. Like, it's terrible. I don't know what he's going to do.
yeah, they've been. The O-line's not been good, which is again something they could have addressed, but no. Your offense, even when Caleb has time, you're not doing a lot in any facet of the game. Caleb Williams was your leading rusher with 44 yards. Your next best rusher was DeAndre Swift with 18. So that doesn't help. Your passing game is not is not really even meeting any expectations.
But yeah,
The offense, again, Bears defense looks good.
they're solid.
But they
It's always
just
the offense.
they're so sloppy and bad on offense right now. And Texans just doing enough to win. Nico Collins was a workhorse,
Yes.
8 for 135.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, the kind of Texans just kind of let the defense win them the game. Again, not that Stroud didn't do anything, but he didn't need to do much.
No,
Kind of just let the
let it go.
Bears fall apart themselves.
Then
But that leads us into the last game of
night.
the week. Kirk Cousins actually winning in prime time.
That's surprising. He can play primetime games? According to a statistic, when the Eagles had the ball within 2 minutes, the Falcons had a 0.7% chance of winning. It was all because Barkley dropped that ball on third down. That was the domino effect right there. It was just them collapsing there. Kirk Cousins didn't look terrible that game. He's slowly getting back to form, which is a good sign. Yeah, I mean, Eagles are a little concerning still. They're still giving me that essence from last year where they just don't have much going on offense and their defense kind of falls flat here and there. I don't know. Maybe that's just beginning of year struggles sometimes. Usually you don't get anything going until the end of the season sometimes. But unless you got anything else for that one, I mean, there's nothing really much to take away from that besides Kirk Cousins winning prime time and Eagles are kind of just doing the same thing again and again and again.
It's again just a flip of what happened last week where their defense actually did perform, but your offense just came up flat. I mean, you had a good amount of rushing. Your rushing game was strong, but in the past game, you really weren't getting much, at least as yardage goes.
Did not look great.
And just an inability to kind of really find the end zone was a factor for sure. Yeah, they're just figuring out the offensive woes. Like you mentioned, it does look similar to kind of when they were in their slump last year. I don't know with them. Falcons
Give
again.
a couple more weeks for them.
I mean, I will give credit to the Falcons. I think their defense looks pretty good.
Yeah.
I mean, you're averaging what 18.5 point or not 18.5, 19.5 points.
19.5 points, yeah.
Against the Eagles and the Steelers, who again Steelers aren't doing much on offense, but
Got a great defense.
yeah,
They're doing something. They're good.
I think their defense is pretty solid, so I think that's something for them to kind of lean on.
Yeah.
Just making sure that offense runs as intended, which it really didn't until the last I guess just the fourth quarter. But
Agreed. Well, thank you all for joining us for this recap of week 2. We'll get the predictions for week 3 out as soon as possible. I think we both can agree that Sunday night football was really fun. Thank you for all the new support and everything. We're really excited to continue this kind of stuff, and hopefully we'll do some more live or streaming, at least a lot more eventually. We'll see. But college is college. It keeps us busy. So with that being said, thank you all for joining us, and we'll see you sometime. See ya.
bye.